serving as the host in terms of the WebEx control board. So she will mute and unmute folks as we need to. And I'm going to go ahead and get started by introducing myself. My name is Mark Rasdorf. Welcome. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the Senior Associate Director in Intercultural Affairs at ECU, where it is my privilege to oversee the Dr. Jesse R. Peel LGBTQ Center. Thank you for joining us for today's celebration of our 10th anniversary. In a perfect world, we would be in the beautiful ballrooms of our main campus student center with 300 or 400 of our closest friends. But in the interest of the public health, this virtual ceremony will suffice for this year. But Jessica and I and Dennis and Eric and Virginia, everybody, we all ask you to save your energy because we're going to have an even bigger celebration in 2022 when we mark our next decade.
That almost seems impossible, but we'll definitely find a way to top it. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Malowski. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the Assistant Director for the Dr. Jesse R. Peel LGBTQ Center. I echo Mark's thanks to you all for being here with us, whether you're joining us live or watching the recording a little bit later. Thank you so much for everyone's joint contributions to the beautiful home that we call the Peel Center. We could not have done it without everyone, so thank you all for your efforts that have gotten us to this point. Today we mark 10 years. It has been quite a journey. From the LGBT Resource Office that started in Brewster as a one-room operation in 2011 has grown to become the largest center of its kind in the 17-campus UNC system. With more than 7,000 visits to the Peel Center each year, we now have 2 full-time employees, an advancement council that supports our fundraising efforts, and more than 30 weekly student volunteers that dedicate their time to fulfilling our mission to serve as a resource, referral, education, and social center for the entire campus.
And as I've already said, we're grateful for all of your participation today. We would like to share a special acknowledgement to members of our LGBTQ Advancement Council, past and present, who have supported our fundraising efforts since 2015. That includes our current chair, Emily Jarvis, immediate past chairs, Kylene Dibble and Brad Collier, and members, I'm going to read this list so I don't leave anybody out. Will Banks, Bob Edwards, Terry Edwards, Joe Esparza, Kathy Hill, Eleanor Schmidt, Steve Schmidt, Ann Tickner, Gerald Vega, Justin Waters, and of course, Jesse Peel. I would now like to welcome Dr. Dennis McCunney, Director of Intercultural Affairs.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Jessica. And want to say welcome again, everyone. I'm Dennis McCunney. My pronouns are he, him, his, Service Director of Intercultural Affairs here at ECU. Excited to be with you to celebrate this important milestone for the Peel Center, but also I think an important milestone for ECU as a campus, as an institution, and an important milestone for Eastern North Carolina as a region. I think when we think about the ways that our campus has aspired to be more inclusive and equitable over the last few decades, we can say that the Peel Center has been front and center when it comes to that work. Not only has the physical space of the center been important in the lives of some of our most vulnerable students, but the high quality learning opportunities that the center provides shape the conversations on our campus for the better. Over the past few years, the Peel Center has become part of the larger umbrella department of Intercultural Affairs. And this is a department I see as a synergy of passionate, dedicated social justice educators who help students explore and celebrate different facets of identity and really push us as an institution to ask difficult questions, all for the sake of positive social change. As a department, our vision is to, quote, create inclusive and equitable communities where all persons confidently know and where all persons are known. And the Peel Center does just that on a daily basis. And at the same time, as we can see, the team is never complacent. as we've seen now for 10 years. There's always room for deeper questions, better outreach, creative programs and speakers, new partnerships, interesting scholarship, and of course, as some of us experienced this morning, more confetti. So on behalf of the Intercultural Affairs team, I say cheers to 10 years and many more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dennis. It's now my privilege to welcome Dr. Jesse Peel, a native son of Martin County, North Carolina, who has worked for more than 4 decades to champion the rights and dignity and the lives of LGBTQ individuals. Jesse's vision, passion, and generosity have created an impact that is almost impossible to overestimate, and we're so honored that he's here today. Jesse?
Thank you, Jessica. It is a real pleasure to be here with you today. Back in 10 years ago, when we first got the resource office, kids started coming. They had to find us, but they found us. And when I would come up for visits, the place would be packed. It was like an anthill over there. And we were, from the very beginning, we're asking for more space. We kept lobbying for additional space, and finally 2 years ago, we dedicated this incredible center we have today. The thing that I'm most excited about is where they put us, right in the heart of the new center, not in the attic, not in the basement, but right in the center where our it just speaks volumes of the university's commitment to inclusion and affirmation, and our kids love it. I am so proud to be able to be a part of this and to be celebrating with you.
Thank you, Jesse. It is now my privilege to welcome Dr. Marilyn Sheerer to deliver today's keynote. Dr. Sheerer served as Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor at ECU for 7 years, and she is currently at UNCW. But most importantly, it was during her tenure that the LGBT Resource Office was established. Her support was instrumental in creating the original LGBT Resource Office. So we welcome Dr. Marilyn Sheerer.
Be here. This event is historic, and I mean historic. I remember how it was, and how it was we were walking around Brewster trying to find a hole in the wall for an office or a space for our LGBTQ students to come to and talk to people. It was bad news. Many of us knew that we needed to do something, but we were a little lost, I guess, just not quite sure where to turn. Then I had the opportunity to hear Summer Wisdom's master's study, and it was just what we needed. When I think back to her presentation, I can actually quote things from what she said, how far behind we were, comparing us to other institutions, what did it mean, where was the advocacy on our campus, blah, blah, blah. It was excellent. At that point, I knew that Chancellor Ballard would have an open ear to what she was saying. And so I invited him, and indeed I was right. And Dr. Hardy was right behind him too, of course. There were other people on campus who immediately saw the need and understood what was happening. But it still took quite a while to make something happen. For such an initiative to start on any campus today, you must have the support of the top level administration. It just doesn't work otherwise. And we had it. Thank goodness we had it. Now, things started happening, and I'm getting old, so I can't remember exactly the order that they occurred, but I remember some really important things. The first one was Scott Wells, who was a gift officer in the College of Arts and Sciences, invited me to meet Jesse Peel. Now, it was a really odd occasion that I met Jesse Peel. It was the funeral of his dear mother in Everett. Now, if you've never been to Everett, I had not been. It's a very small town east of Greenville. Reminded me of the town I grew up in, actually in Pennsylvania. And I went to the funeral and I met Jesse, and we immediately connected, even though the occasion was a little different one to do so. Maybe, Jesse, it was the picture of you in your drum major outfit, because my son had been a drum major. And I thought, aha. And I started talking to you about my gay son and the kinds of unmet needs that he was experiencing at the university he attended. And that's when it started. We started talking seriously about the future. Each time he came to Greenville, and that was pretty often, or to Everett, I would visit with him. Many times at the Oyster Bar in Williamston, eating oysters. We talked about the next steps. Where were we going from here? It was wonderful. I also remember attending my first Lavender graduation. I didn't even know what it was before then. And I was so touched by all the gay faculty, the staff, and the students who attended. It was just obvious to me and to Jesse that we had to keep things moving. There was just no way we couldn't. Now, what's amazing to me here is that Jesse Peel graduated from Chapel Hill, an outstanding graduate from Chapel Hill. And you would think, like a lot of our other people that we know who are light blue, why did he not continue to go in that direction? And Jesse would have to answer that himself at some point, but my read is that we were able to develop together a particular synergy. When I say we, I mean many people at ECU and Jesse and his friends that he would bring from Atlanta. And we had such energy and synergy going. I think we made a new home for Jesse, and he guided us. He had had a lot of experience in Atlanta. He had done amazing things there. So we had to learn from him. We had to take some direction from him. And together we formed a kind of collaborative, if you will. And Jesse, again, as you know, has not stopped his support, both financial and personal, to the center and to the ECU community. I came up 2 years ago now, I guess it was, to the fundraiser. And oh my gosh, I was so impressed with what had been set up and Jesse's direct involvement. There we were, intermingling with hundreds of people in support of these efforts. It was just phenomenal. So as I reflect on everything that has happened over these 10 years, here's what I'm struck by and what I bring to my own institution, which I will tell you is not where you are. Don't say that too loudly, but we're not. The first I see is the need for continuous advocacy, not just little spurts here and there, but continuous, coming to the table often, keeping the dialogue going, giving very positive examples of things and so on. The need for collaboration of all the parties. That means, of course, our students, our donors, everyone on campus, faculty and staff. And the more that occurs, again, the more synergy will develop. The ability, the other pieces, the ability that individuals have to put equity and inclusion ahead of politics and negative viewpoints. And there are many on campuses that still are not quite sure that these kinds of approaches are right. So we have to continue looking to the individuals who can articulate our mission well, who can articulate what we're able to have happen as a result of our involvement and so on. So now I'll just say to you, ECU is indeed ahead. Oh my gosh, when I think back to Brewster, and I say that to you today, you're ahead. You're ahead of where I am. You're ahead of where many people are. In Greenville, North Carolina, and East Carolina, you're ahead. We can remain that kind of beacon, and I'm my ECU affiliation. We can remain a beacon for other universities and do this work right. I'm so pleased, honestly I am, to say that I've been a part of the evolution at ECU. It has been very personally rewarding for me. One time my son said to me when I was explaining everything that had happened, I took a picture of the new center and sent it to him when I visited. He said, "Gee, Mom, that was like the best thing you did at ECU." I said, "Well, I don't know if it's the best thing, but I feel pretty good about it." So on that note, I'll say to all of you, congratulations. Congratulations, ECU in general, to Jesse Peel, to Virginia Hardy, to you, Mark, to Chancellor Ballard, and many others for the kind of ongoing commitment that you've had to this extremely important cause. Thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you, Dr. Sheerer, for that wonderful keynote. Give me 1 second while I multitask to share. Okay. At our Pride 2020 dinner and celebration 1 year ago, we established the Dr. Jesse R. Peel LGBTQ Advocacy Award. As you just heard Dr. Sheerer share, there have been many, many people that have gotten us to where we are. And this award honors one of those people, or departments in this case, honors the legacy and spirit of Jesse's work and recognizes a faculty, staff, or community member whose passion and dedication equals that of our namesake. Here to introduce this year's award is last year's recipient, Dr. Virginia Hardy, ECU's Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs.
Thank you very much, Jessica. And thank you, Marilyn Sheerer. Wonderful to see you. And yes, you did help set the foundation for where we are today. And we greatly appreciate your work then and your continued support and commitment to the good work that's being done here in East Carolina. Your 3 points there of being committed to continuous advocacy, continuous collaboration, and then of course, being able to put diversity, equity, and inclusion above politics on our campus. We will stay committed to all 3 of those, and even when it's not popular, and it's definitely not easy, we will continue to do that because it's the right thing to do, and because we have courageous leaders who believe in doing the right things for our students particularly. So, thank you very much, Dr. Sheerer. I am very happy to be celebrating the 10th anniversary of this center. Wow, how fabulous is this? And it is fabulous. Jesse, Dr. Peel, you're correct. It is smack dab in the center of the student center. It is prime real estate, I like to tell people, and it gets used quite a bit, and it will get used again as soon as this pandemic is over and our babies are back on campus. The fact that the center has grown and changed so much within this decade is impressive, and it is significant because it does show the importance of providing an inclusive and supportive community and campus for our students, our faculty, and our staff, and it means so much to so many. We are truly impressed. The Division of Student Affairs has always been passionate about creating a welcoming environment. And the Dr. Jesse Peel LGBTQ Center is a critical component for that success. Now, a point of privilege here, just want to talk personally for a bit about what the center means. For me, it is a work. It was a labor of love, truly speaking, to be able to grow this center and to get it into this prime real estate within the student center, and for the continued support for it and for the work that it does. It's phenomenal. I can't say enough about it and say enough about all the partners across the campus and within the community who continue to support the efforts for our students. I'm proud. It is, Marilyn, actually, as I think reflect on a lot of the accomplishments and things that we've had within the division, one of my proud moments, of course, is the main campus student center and the health sciences student center, but it's also the LGBTQ Center, Jesse Peel Center, within that main campus student center. It is a point of pride for me. I do want to say many thanks to a lot of people. I won't call folks by name, but to all those who support the Peel Center. You are consistently giving of your time, your talents, and your treasures, even during this pandemic, which solidifies the need and the mission of the Jesse Peel LGBTQ Center. And that mission is to provide support and a sense of community for students, faculty, and staff, and of course, our alumni of all sexual orientations, gender identities, and gender expressions. We foster student leadership as well as personal, academic, and professional growth through our volunteer opportunities and collaborative partnerships across the campus. The LGBTQ Center offers a safe and welcoming environment that promotes understanding, acceptance, and visibility of our LGBT community through a comprehensive range of educational programming and advocacy services. And it's important for me to say that because I want people to know exactly all that happens from that particular center. Congratulations, and here's to 10 more wonderful years for the LGBTQ Center. Now, it is my privilege to welcome Dr. Melinda Kane, Associate Professor in the Department of Sociology.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you. I really appreciate Mark asking me to say a few words. Very thankful for that. And make sure that, okay. So as Professor Sheerer already mentioned, there is a tie to sociology that this office has, this center has, that's pretty direct. And so I wanted to just talk a little bit about it. Not so much as a history, though a little bit of a history, but kind of two ideas. The first is I did want to talk a little bit about Summer and Summer's master's project, because it's really important. And I was on that committee, so I got to see it really from the ground, right? And from the details there. So I thought I'd actually start by talking about her project a little bit. When Summer came into our department, Dr. Linda Mooney, one of our faculty members, had just finished a climate survey of LGBTQ students, faculty, and staff on campus. And the results were not great. The hostile experiences were much higher at ECU at that time than in nationwide surveys. And so Summer wanted to do some research that might be able to address that. So that was kind of her goal. And she decided to pursue what we call our research practicum option. So it actually wasn't an official thesis, it was a research practicum. And this is different because normally it's an applied project where you're working for a client. Maybe there's a nonprofit who wants to evaluate the people they serve and see whether or not they're meeting their needs. And so a student might do surveys or focus groups and then write a report for them. And so in this case, Summer's project had ECU as her client, even though the university didn't quite know it. That was her goal, was to do something for the university. And so she was mentored by Dr. Marika Van Willigen, that was her chair, and she did this very rigorous analysis of the programs and supports that were available to LGBTQ plus students primarily at ECU, at our peer institutions, and at all the other UNC system schools. And she did this through interviews, through research, documents, and all sorts of things. And what she said, as Professor Sheerer pointed out, is that ECU at the time was quite behind, particularly for schools of similar size, right? So when you looked at schools that were our size, we were not doing what they were doing. And she was able to document a real opportunity for institutional growth, right? For something that ECU could do differently. What she also did was think ahead, and she did some research on LGBT centers. What did the existing research say about these centers? What worked, what didn't, what helped them succeed, what might contribute to failure? And she visited several successful centers, all four that were in the UNC system at the time, and two of our peer institutions, one at Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and one at Northern Illinois. And this helped Summer be able to inform the structure, format, and goals of the initial office that was founded, that she was the initial director of. And so for me, this really shows the importance of research, what research can do. And I would, of course, argue sociological research because as a sociologist, but when you can systematically demonstrate the need and the best way to achieve it, it makes convincing those institutional leaders much easier. And our institutional leaders were receptive, right? And that was great. There was this synergy between what Summer was providing and what the leaders, what the chancellor and the provost, think about that as a graduate student. Think about this, your own defense as people who've got graduate degrees, that the chancellor and the provost show up to your defense, right? And they were receptive, and that enabled that spark, right, to take off. because people were open to the message. And the department actually had a relationship with Dr. Jesse Peel as well. And so that really helped facilitate the start and growth of the office. The other thing I wanted to just point out is the idea that the relationship between the office and sociology was really departmental. So Summer definitely, I mean, you just cannot say more about the contribution that she made. But the department was supportive and involved from the beginning of Summer's project through the formation of the office, right? So we had her committee members all did research on LGBTQ issues. And that's 3 people in a relatively small department. The department had already made commitments to LGBTQ issues by the faculty that they had and the research they supported. The office was originally housed administratively in sociology. I don't think people often remember that until it found a home in student affairs, which has allowed it to flourish. It did start under sociology and actually reported through sociology, through Lee Merrill, through the chair of the department, and up through academic affairs. I talk about the silly things the office did. We kept their extra key when they were still in Brewster, so the student workers could come and open the office. That way, Mark, if he had early morning meetings across campus, he didn't have to rush over to make sure they could get in. And our administrative office staff, Lisa Dozier and LaShonda Brown, adopted those students. Those were our students, right? They worked in the office, they were our students. And I think we were one of the few departments who were a little sad when the center opened in the student center, and not because we didn't want it to happen, but because we were losing our students. So like we were losing that connection that we had with the students right down there in Brewster. I laugh, we got a new copier and we still put Mark's number in there. So Mark can come copy in Brewster whenever he needs. So there are these lasting little ties that still exist because of that initial connection that happened. And we're still involved. We have members on the Advancement Council. We host Love Wins events. We've been speakers at Lavender Launch. I mean, we were and are still committed to the center. It's part of us. I'd like to think it still is, even though it's not still housed in us. And we're just really excited to celebrate this 10-year anniversary with the center. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kane. You're right. We do remember that it was, the center was a part of initially the Department of Sociology, and the amount of work that took place with the Sociology Department in regards to the center. So thank you so much for sharing some of that history. One of the pieces we didn't share too is that, remember, ECU has 4 out of 5 stars for the Campus Pride Index, and we're one of the few in the state of North Carolina campuses who have that, and we're going for that 5th star. Truly, COVID threw a monkey wrench for us, but we were ready to get our 5th star this year with that, because, like you said, Dr. Kane, it's in our DNA right now. This is what we believe wholeheartedly in. So last year, the 2020 banquet, we had the inaugural recipient of the award, and it was, wow. Surprisingly, and with privilege and honor, I'm still very honored to have been the inaugural recipient of that award. So on behalf of the Dr. Jesse R. Peel LGBTQ Center, it is my privilege to present this year's award to the Department of Sociology for being great partners and doing great work around these efforts. We thank you, thank you, thank you. Here to accept this award is Dr. Kristen Myers, Chair of the Department of Sociology at East Carolina University.
Thank you, Dr. Hardy, and I want you all to see the award. There's a photograph of it, but this thing, I'm so afraid my cat's gonna knock it over. We're gonna find a great spot for it in the office, and we actually have 2 awards. This one is a beveled, when the light hits it, it creates its own rainbows. So we're just so honored, and I'm, like Dr. Hardy said, here to give some remarks in recognition of the work that the department did. So I am Kristen Myers, the chair of the Department of Sociology. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I've only been at ECU since the summer of 2019, so it's kind of odd for me to be the one to accept this on the part of the department. But I wanted to tell you my personal relationship, my personal impact that the center has made on me in the short time that I've been here. I came to ECU from Northern Illinois University. I just learned from Dr. Kane that Summer came there, and I did not know that. I was the founder and director of the Academic Center for the Study of Women, Gender, and Sexuality. We had an LGBTQ plus studies minor. We worked very closely with our partners in student affairs, and we had spent years calling a little program to meet the needs of LGBTQ plus students and faculty and staff. And we'd been able to commandeer a basement office and just a few faculty. And when I came to ECU, one of my first experiences was to attend the Jessie R. Peel LGBTQ Center Welcome Back event in the Student Center. And this, you know, if you've been there, you know, this is a giant ballroom filled with people. And when Mark welcomed everyone warmly, I was deeply moved. Here were all these people in this grand rainbow bedecked space in Eastern North Carolina. And at the time, I didn't fully know the story of how the center had developed, although I did know that they'd also had humble beginnings in what might be considered a basement in Brewster, since I toured that really lovely space. As Jessie said, the ants in the anthill were all very happy to welcome people in. But this was an amazing and impactful event. And to me, the Jessie R. Peel LGBTQ Center embodies promise, hope, and hard work coming to fruition. The people who've done that hard work made me feel like I'd come home. And I remember looking at Melinda Kane and saying, you know, I'm just kind of reclamped to be here. So thank you for that, Mark and Jessie, and thanks to all my colleagues in sociology and across the other departments who've done this work. And in sociology, we're so grateful to be honored for the advocacy that we have done. Not we, they, that I'm just speaking on their behalf, have done for the center. So I'm here today to celebrate this partnership between the Department of Sociology and the Jessie R. Peel LGBTQ Center. Our units are clearly connected. As Dr. Kane described, this long-term collaboration and mutual support, but also through a common interest in social justice. Sociologists do research on social life, and many of us hope that our research can shed light on and even inform policy that benefits people around us. Sociologists study everything, including the ways that LGBTQ centers benefit college campuses. All of us here know in our hearts that the Jessie R. Peel LGBTQ Center is good for ECU, but there's also systematic data to back up that feeling. For example, in 2019, the journal International Sociology published an article by 3 researchers. Some of you may know them: Susan Rankin, Jason Garvey, and Antonio Duran. And they were looking at the evolution of LGBTQ plus issues on college campuses since 1990. They note that LGBTQ plus faculty, staff, and students have always been on college campuses, but they were not welcome for decades. They were met in the 1920s to the 1940s with what Rankin and her colleagues call, quote, a climate of fear due to campus administrations covertly searching for, quote, homosexual faculty, staff, and students that sent queer spectrum and trans spectrum people underground, unquote. Since the 1990s, which is very recent, I should note, campuses have become more welcoming to LGBTQ plus people. Since then, college campuses have actually become key locations, central to important conversations about the politics and power of language, including pronoun usage and why and how to reclaim the term queer. This ever-evolving language has been instrumental in claiming what Judith Butler calls personhood, which is a key step in reclaiming and claiming rights in society. Public universities like ECU are especially important locations for social transformation because they're state-sanctioned and funded. Change that becomes normalized on a university campus has ripple effects for changes in legislatures and changes in community culture. As sociologists like to remind everyone, all institutions are complexly interconnected. Research shows that LGBTQ plus student affairs centers are extremely important for solidifying and legitimizing queer and trans visibility and inclusion on campuses. Visibility and legitimacy are crucial for student success. Helping students feel a sense of belonging in the classroom, the residence halls, and co-curricular activities, seeing themselves represented in course curriculum. All of these things are important for moving forward, being a full and developed community. And of course, what's good for LGBTQ plus students, staff, and faculty is also good for cis and straight students, staff, and faculty. Based on large interdisciplinary bodies of data, we can extrapolate that the Jesse R. Peel LGBTQ Center, the largest and most visible of its kind in the UNC system, is changing the lives of students, staff, and faculty at ECU, but also changing culture and practices in Eastern North Carolina, and by its very existence, influencing policymakers in Raleigh. It is a brave and bold endeavor. So bravo to all of you who work strategically, enthusiastically, and collaboratively to make this happen. Thank you for recognizing my colleagues in the Department of Sociology for the part they played. And on their behalf, I happily received this gorgeous award, which will find a place to proudly display for years to come. And we will continue to advocate for the center and for LGBTQ plus inclusion and representation. So cheers to all of you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Myers. We really appreciate you receiving that award, and thank you to everybody who was involved. As you all just heard, former student Summer Wisdom was the catalyst for why we're all here. And since then, our center has continued to have students at the center of our work. Without our students and without that focus, we would not be here. So I would like to take a moment to recognize all of the students who have made our work possible over the last decade. Since the inception of our office, our students have served such a critical role as volunteers for our center, helping greet visitors, give tours of the office, providing resources to the community, and just being a social gathering place for each other to find community. This year, we have a team of over 20 students who dedicate their time weekly as center assistants while balancing classes, jobs, and other extracurriculars. We have an additional team of about 15 students that serve as panelists that will go into the community and our campus to talk about their identity and what it's like to be LGBTQ. I think that work is maybe more important than the work that Mark and I do. We focus on not only changing minds, but changing hearts. And I think that peer-to-peer connection is so crucial. Students help us as volunteers for our programs. Even this morning, some of our students were helping us prepare for our afternoon celebrations that we hope all of you will join us for. Our students also help build our Pirate Ally Network, a peer-to-peer version of our Safe Zone training. To our center assistants, our past volunteers, our past graduate assistants, and every student who's been involved in our work, thank you. Thank you for dedicating your hearts and your passion to help grow our center and the mission that we serve. I can't make eye contact with Mark. Generally in person, this would be the point where we would have a thunderous round of applause for all of the students that we would bring up on stage with us. So I ask that if you see any of them in the next week or two, you give them an elbow bump or air five, whatever feels comfortable, and please tell them thank you for all of their work. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Eric Newble, Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Involvement and Leadership.
Thank you, Jessica. So I've been here about 2/3 through the 10-year journey. I got here about 6 years ago. Dr. Hardy, my anniversary is coming up first week of February. Don't forget, 6 years. When I think back, one of the things you study when you're going to apply for a job, right? And you're going down there and you're nervous, you want to learn everything you can about the institution. And one of the things that struck me about ECU that still resonates with me today, so much so that I've put it on the walls in our student center, I've used it constantly, is the 3 strategic goals of the institution, our vision, right? That's public service, right? Student success, regional transformation. And it's hard to think, and we have a lot of great areas in student affairs, right? And especially in, I'm biased, but especially in the areas that report through me. But it's hard to think of an office that hits all 3 of those as aggressively, and I say that in the best possible way, right? As aggressively and as thoughtfully and successfully as you all do. I mean, if you think about the student success, you've already talked about it, Jessica, right? We know from research that students, if they're happy, if they're supported, they're going to go through ups and downs. But if they're there and supported and feel welcomed in an environment, they will do better, right? They will rise to their greatest level of achievement. And you've shown that consistently. We look at Lavender Launch. I have the privilege of the last 6 years of reading the names of Lavender Launch, and I read a little bit of their bios and I see where they're going. I sometimes get a little teary-eyed and start to also think, goodness, what have I done? Like they've already done so much, right? And it's incredible. And then you think of this concept of public service, all the things that you're doing, and you just mentioned, Jessica, and going out into the community and not just educating, but training. I mean, I think that's so important because there's a slight difference, I think, in education and training, but really training people about the how to be inclusive, how to be accepting. And I think as a number of speakers have already said, and how that affects everybody, not just LGBTQ, right? And then regional transformation, which I think, honestly, is one of the hardest metrics for us to hit in a number of our areas, right? Because we're so focused on our students and our university, is to hit that regional transformation part. And you heard it, right? You heard from Dr. Myers, this how you've affected change, both locally in our government, in our city, rallying around causes and issues that are not always directly LGBTQ, but are advocacy and support issues for other communities. And I do believe that you have influenced the state, right? What's great about all that is that we have a saying here in our area that we're trying to be the benchmark, right? You are the benchmark. Dr. Sheerer said that, right? You are the benchmark. And I have to say, traveling around and speaking and seeing other schools through NASPA around the country, you are not just a benchmark for North Carolina. You are the benchmark for not only what we have here for the country, but what we can create when we have this kind of care for each other and support. You know, I love listening to Brene Brown, and she talks so much about this concept of suspending fear, right? And that's how you grow and that's how you dream. And that's what you all did so early on with Dr. Hardy and Jesse and Dr. Sheerer. This dream with hard work, with dedication. There were bumps, there were walls, and I was there to witness many of those walls, right? There were obstacles, but we just keep pushing forward to the point where we're ranked as high as we are in the Campus Pride Index, right? To where we have people visiting here to see what we're doing. And I have to say, we are the largest in the UNC system. We're the second largest in the state, right? So we are a significant player, and we are the benchmark. And so much so that we've gotten these wonderful letters. So I'm going to share with you some snippets of 3 comments. I'm getting old, so I'm going to take off my glasses to read them. But I'm not going to read the whole letter. But first, for the Campaign for Southern Equality, Reverend Jasmine Beach Ferreira, who was a speaker here at one of our events, spoke and wrote this great, wonderful letter. But some of the things that she said was the center offers such an inspiring and important model of what is possible in the South when a public institution fulfills the promise of treating each person with dignity and respect. When they open their doors wide to invite everyone to the table, that includes joy, love, and laughter. So she writes, she's also so pleased that she's inspired by the caliber of work that we do in the center. These are game-changing, as she wrote, game-changing and life-changing endeavors. We are peacekeepers, not just for the UNC system, but for higher education institutions across the South. Another wonderful letter that we got was from the Human Rights Campaign Foundation, and that was from Senior Vice President of Programs, Research, and Training, Jay Brown. So Jay writes, we applaud the LGBTQ Center's vision and work to create a safer, more inclusive community for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer students, faculty, staff, and alumni. The Peel Center's leadership in national campaigns such as National Coming Out Day, Transgender Day of Remembrance, World AIDS Day, Gay Fine by Me, Bisexual Awareness, Asexual Awareness Week, and Transgender Day of Visibility, and affirming programs including Safe Zone, Pirate Ally, and LGBTQ student panels demonstrate its commitment to combating invisibility, marginalization, homophobia, transphobia, and harassment on a campus and beyond. He also says, together, we are building a world where every single young person is free to be who they are and excited about who they can become. And finally, from Representative G.K. Butterfield that represents us in Congress, he wrote, well, he wants to say he's so disappointed for not being able to celebrate this occasion in person, but he wrote, for the last decade, the Peel LGBTQ Center has steadfastly served the ECU community and its workings each day to create a welcoming space for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer members of ECU's community through educational programs and events, advocacy services, and collaborative partnerships across the campus should be applauded. I extend to you my personal congratulations and best wishes on behalf of the people of the 1st Congressional District of North Carolina. These are fantastic, right, letters, and we just took a few. But this is the kind of work that we're doing. And again, if you don't think that you're influencing change, right, that you're impacting things positively, see how I did that, Dr. Hardy took our leadership definition, then look at the kind of people that are writing you letters from across the state and the country. So I want to end, and so often I like to end by going back to personal things in my life. And one of the things that's dear to me is my son. He's 10, but when he was growing up, he loved, because I read it to him, so he had to love it, I guess, but he loved Shel Silverstein. He writes all these great poems for kids. But when you read these poems back, and I've read them to him, and about a year ago, I started reading them again back to him because we were just kind of reliving old days. And it's amazing the meanings that are found in some of these very simple poems. And he has a favorite poem that speaks heavily to, I think, not only the work that the center and the students and everybody represents, but also everybody on this call. It's really simple. It's called The Voice. There is a voice inside of you that whispers all day long. I feel what is right for me. I know what is wrong. No teacher, preacher, parent, friend, or wise man can decide what's right for you. Just listen to the voice that speaks inside. This center would not happen and would not have happened if we had not just listened to ourselves and to our gut and know what is right. Thank you all. This has been a wonderful day. And as we say, we are pirates and we do sail, right? Fair winds and following seas, and here's to the next 10 years.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up. For those of you who've attended many of our events, you might notice how much talking Jessica did. I want to thank her for her partnership in running this office now, and for taking those triggers away from me when I typically would cry. And I also want to acknowledge hearing Melinda's speech really stirred things up. But it just reminded me to acknowledge the shoulders that we stand on in doing this work, and that people here at ECU for decades sought to create a safe and welcoming environment. And there was that catalyst in Summers' research that led to our center. So I just want to acknowledge all of those people. And finally, we are excited to announce, in celebration of our 10th anniversary, our first ever crowdfunding campaign on this Saturday, January 30th, in partnership with University Advancement. We will launch our first ever crowdfunding campaign in support of the LGBTQ Priority Fund. Our Priority Fund was established to ensure our capacity to support our students through scholarships and professional development initiatives, as well as through collaborative programs that allow the Peel LGBTQ Center to contribute to ECU's vision of regional transformation. We are excited to announce a $1,000 challenge gift from Michael Aho and Joe Esparza for the first week. And we are deeply, deeply grateful for this support to reach our goal over the next 6 weeks of $15,000 for the Priority Fund. So to all of you listening, I hope you'll consider any gift, $10, $100, $1,000 or more. The Priority Fund has enabled us to do a lot for our students, and we're starting to expand that reach into the community. So I just want to thank all of you for joining us today. The festivities are going to continue with my beloved confetti. this afternoon, and we'll keep you posted about 2022. So thank you, Godspeed, and namaste.
Mark, we have one more thing.
Okay. Oh, right. Oh my gosh, how can I see? I got emotional. All right, ready? Here we go. Here's the 10 years. There's confetti.
As you heard, Mark is the king of confetti, so we had to include that today. Our center will be fully decorated with confetti, balloons, streamers, cupcakes, and everything. So please, if you can, stop by and join us and continue our celebration.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.